I see so much potential and opportunity for women entrepreneurs, and I'm just passionate about supporting women who the research shows women entrepreneurs tend to be under-supported. The networks aren't as deep and as strong as our male counterparts.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die. This is where we come to win, we come to fly. This is where we make our dreams come to life. Welcome to Innovation City.
Welcome to Innovation City, a podcast featuring the innovators, creators, and disruptors who are fueling innovation in emerging markets across the country. I'm super excited because I'm here with my co-host, Miss Leanne Buchanan.
Hello, everybody.
And we have a very special guest today, good friend of mine, Erin Joy.
Hi, thanks for having me. So good to be with both of you.
Well, Erin, we're super excited to dive into learning who you are, what inspires you. And for those that don't know, Erin, you are the founder and CEO of Black Dress Circle, as well as Fuel to Fire. And I want to hear a little bit more about how that came to be in the last year or so. But before we talk about what you do, we want to learn who you are. So Erin, why don't you start off by telling us what is your superpower and how did you discover it?
I think my superpower is being with people, like really fully being with people and giving people space to be who they are. And of course, I practice that the most with my clients, meeting them where they are, and not only being their advisor, their guide, their consultant, their coach, but also being their friend, their confidant, I should say, someone who really empowers them to be the best version of themselves. So that's my superpower.
And Erin, I'm curious, for a lot of people, holding space for others and developing a awareness of the present moment is challenging. I know for me, it has always been challenging. So talk to us for a moment about how you developed and cultivated and honed that particular skill set that adds so much value to your work today.
Yeah, what a great question. About 20 years ago, I started on a very deep journey of personal development, and I did tons and tons of really rigorous and intense courses and personal development and leadership training, and did a lot of work to transform myself in such a way that when I'm being with someone, I don't have my focus or my concern on me, but really on being a blank space, a clear space for whatever there is to show up, to actually show up. And so, it wasn't easy, and I continue to develop that skill and that practice, but it was really through, I would say, rigorous training where I would have a conversation with a Leanne and then, get feedback from you, like, how was I for you? How did I occur for you? And then just continuing to dismantle any of me that I am bringing to the conversation unnecessarily.
Yeah. I'm curious, was there a precipitating event that kind of kicked off that journey into personal growth?
Oh, yes. And it is juicy.
I figured. So if you're okay, I'd love to hear.
Yeah. So growing up, I grew up in a small town in central Illinois. And I, for a wide variety of reasons, had some frenemies in middle school, in high school, in grade school. I was in the group, but then I was constantly being kind of pushed out of the group. And I developed, I had some childhood trauma from this. And being in a small town where you're stuck, there's no other friends. There's the 5 friends, and that's it. And I kind of developed a persona of, I'm going to be kind of, can I swear on this podcast? Sure. All right, I'm going to be a bitch to you before you can be a bitch to me, okay? Just to protect myself. Yeah. And I created that persona and this shield to protect myself. Well, fast forward, I unknowingly was being that way with my family, with my siblings. And I very accidentally found an email between my sister and my sister-in-law talking about how their spouses didn't want to be around me when they came in town for the family gathering. And it was heartbreaking, of course. But I already had coaches at that time. And I went to my coach and I said, I can hardly listen to what you're saying to me about my business right now because I'm so distracted by this thing that just happened with my family. I just found out that my siblings can't stand to be around me. Wow. And my coach said, it's who you're being that's causing that. And he said, just do the Landmark Forum, which is the course that I did, one of the originating course that I did. It's, by Landmark Worldwide, which is a global educational and personal development organization. And it changed my life. I've never looked back. Almost my entire family then did the Landmark Forum. I restored all of those relationships with my siblings. I went from, being someone they didn't want to be around to a few months after that course that I did, my sister asking me if I'd be the guardian of her child if anything ever happened to them. So it was a pretty profound moment. And thank goodness I had the right conversation with the right coach at the right time. And it changed my life.
So fascinating. And I know Tyler's going to dive into a little bit more about what you do, but we often create this fallacy that personal and professional are two separate domains, when really, when something's happening in one, it's necessarily reflected in the other. So such a great story of how it came to be.
Yeah, and a lot to dig in there. I know that you had a pretty, what would be called instant, change of worldview, but the work continues, I'm sure, to this day. So tell us a little bit about just the journey and the work.
Yeah, the work does continue. The work for me, I think like any skill, you're layering your experience, your skill building, your knowledge, your expertise on, day after day, week after week, month after month. So my training today is, different than it was then. I've got some of the foundational aspects in place. But I think that where the work is really at play for me right now is in my PhD journey. So unlike Leanne's sister, who is getting a heavy duty PhD in what'd you say it was in?
Biomedical engineering.
Biomedical engineering. So I study business psychology, and I work specifically at the intersection of well-being and success among entrepreneurs. And I'm looking at how entrepreneurs drive well-being and how that increased and enhanced well-being supports and creates space for success. However they measure success. That's a whole different conversation. How entrepreneurs measure success. There's lots of ways to measure it. It's not all money, by the way. And so the work, now my focus is really being the space that kind of work can emerge inside of. And I'm tasked with, and as every PhD is, I'm not a PhD yet. I'm working on my dissertation. All my coursework is done. I've been on this journey for about 9 years, and I've got nothing left but the dissertation. And my job is to create brand new knowledge in the world and to be the world's foremost expert on well-being and success among entrepreneurs. For myself, I'm constantly using my coaches to help me actually do that, because there's nobody breathing down my neck. There's no deadlines that I have to hit. It's just me, really prioritizing that work when there are so many fires to put out all the time, fun things to do. We just are coming out of this first phase of Corona and COVID. We're vaccinated, and now it's like it's time to get focused. So I think that how my work is unfolding today, it's around the focus around and the discipline around my dissertation to really get this thing done. And it is also around using this amazing, extraordinary experience that we've all had through coronavirus to rethink, redesign, recreate every aspect of my life and my business, and to not stay on the path that I was on, if that's a path I want to let go of. So when COVID hit, I went on this mission to re-examine every single area of my life and to say, it's all on the table. It's all on the table for canceling, renegotiating, slashing. I've when COVID hit, I was 25 years in business. And I'm like, I have this opportunity to reset for the next 25 years. So those are some of the ways that my work, what I task myself with is really at play right now.
Well, you have a ton of experience, like real world experience with Black Dress Circle. I want to hear about Fuel to Fire, but first talk to me about just your experience in working with business owners to help them define success and to achieve success.
Yeah, so my work at Black Dress Circle is primarily with women entrepreneurs. And as I was saying earlier, meet them where they are and really support them in figuring out, where are you now? Where do you want to go? And how are you going to get there? And, I work in probably 30 different industries right now. I'm a generalist. I work in every area of the business with my clients. And I find that for so many entrepreneurs, it is a really lonely journey. They usually burn out their spouses talking about their business as incessantly as they need to talk about their businesses. They often don't have peer friends who are also entrepreneurs that they can speak with. And I'm saying this with a lot of the women I work with. I specialize with women getting them over that $1 million mark in annual revenue, and then women who have $1 million to $50 million annual revenue. It's called second stage entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. And so they need a wide variety of things, but one of the things they need is someone who completely understands them, their business, their goals, how to help them reach all of those things, but also feels like and actually is their friend, their supporter, their confidant, someone they can talk about, not only the business, but how their marriage is being impacted by their business, or, their aging parents and how they're handling that. So I do work at the intersection of business and psychology in my work. So I'm a consultant and I'm a business coach, but it's also all of that as well.
And I love how you've decided to focus in on women only, or for the most part.
Yeah.
Tell me why you made that decision and why women need, their own groups.
Yeah. Well, it's a couple of things. So, I see so much potential and opportunity for women entrepreneurs, and I'm just passionate about supporting women who the research shows women entrepreneurs tend to be under-supported. The networks aren't as deep and as strong as our male counterparts, particularly white men, for that matter. White men tend to have all these ways that they build networks and relationships by going to the golf course together, by, being out drinking beer together, while perhaps their spouses, who may still have a business, are tending to the children, tending to their aging parents, things like that. In a more traditional, a woman who has, children and a spouse. But those are some of the factors that have some of the factors that are more personal, I would say, that have women be under-supported. And then we could go deep into all of the issues around capital and financing and funding that impact women in a negative way in comparison, when you look at the data to men. So I just saw this market opportunity to focus on women. And of course, I did my market research. I found out that there was no one in my city here in St. Louis, Missouri at the time, 10 years ago, who was the go-to for women entrepreneurs. So it made sense from a strategic standpoint. If I go one more cut, at the end of the day, I'm a generalist. I work in every area of business, in small business. And I knew I couldn't go out to the market and say, I am a small business expert and I can help you with any problem in any business. It just wasn't going to work. So I had to position myself as an expert. And I did that and absolutely am an expert in women entrepreneurship.
I'm curious because the process of coaching is something that helps both the coach and the person who's being coached. And you talked a lot about being personally in a moment in which you are renegotiating your contracts with yourself and your life and how you wish to proceed. So I'd love for you to explain and just shed some light on what have you learned about yourself through this process? Because there are outputs and things you've learned maybe substantively, but you as a person, what have you learned about yourself?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I have learned is that, I have designed myself proactively in a certain way over the last 25 years since I've been in business where I really valued and worked really hard to be seen, to be heard, to be loved. And I admitted that when Corona hit, here over the last year or so. I admitted that, like, I have been working so hard, yes, to serve my clients, yes, to build a brand, yes, to make money and to be profitable. But underneath all of it, if I'm really honest, I had this mission to be seen, to be heard, to be loved, going back to that high school experience, by the way. And so, I realized now, like, I've done that. I have built a go-to brand in my market, and I am seen and heard and loved, and that's wonderful. And now what? Like, if that future that I was creating was that one day I'll be at this point where I'm seen, I'm heard, I'm loved, and now it's occurred, now I have this wide open space to create, because I could create anything, because that mission has been accomplished. So now what? So first of all, I've learned that about myself, right? And I've acknowledged that about myself. And now I'm thinking about, and I'm learning about, who do I now want to be? And I know that involves less work. I work too hard. I work too much. It's so easy for me and all of us as entrepreneurs to do. It's in the research. We all know it from our own direct experience. Yeah. Our business is our passion, and it's our baby, and it's our self-expression, and putting boundaries around that so that we're healthy and have less friction in all the areas of our life is really important. So that's one of the biggest things that I am exploring right now is, how to leverage having built, being seen, heard, and loved, and building a brand that, I can open any door that I want to open in this city. And now how to leverage that and not work so dang hard and so many hours.
Yeah. It's interesting. The question of how we wish to present ourselves to the world is one that we rarely ask, but I'm going to ask it. If you had to think about what is your legacy, what is your tombstone read, what would it be?
It's all about being of service, and certainly being Audrey's mom. I'm a single mom to 11-year-old Audrey, and my work, and part of why I want to slow down and not work so much is she's heading into middle school, then high school. I'm a single mom. So the next 7 years, I want to be very close to St. Louis and very available to her. Even when she's at her dad's house, she's at her dad's house for the weekend or the night, I need to be available to her. I want to be available to her. So there's that. There's being Audrey's mom and going back, which is the same as being of service, by the way, and making space and just being with someone. But, it's really about being of service to support my clients in being their best selves and reaching their full potential, and being of service to my community so that, hopefully folks feel, and they have been, watching me and watching my journey and saying, well, she can do that. I can do that too, because I really, I try to share all the aspects of myself and not have folks think, well, she can do that because she has these things at play, but really to share myself in a way that I'm activating the power in someone else. That is what I'm interested in, is empowering other people. Mm-hmm.
Well, with that, let's talk about Fuel to Fire.
Yes. Okay. So Fuel to Fire is about empowering other people.
I love it.
Yeah. So that's the second company that Black Dress Circle is 10 years old this year. And 10 years, we turned 10 years old in 2021. Yes, in February 2021. Fuel to Fire is a brand new company that we started in 2020 during Corona. And it is an entrepreneur's accountability organization. So we support entrepreneurs in really clarifying their goals, crystallizing those, building out a framework for how to measure and track their goals, making sure that they have the right goals. And then we partner them with other entrepreneurs to create these accountability pods who meet every single week to support each other in saying, hey, Tyler, last week you said you were going to set up these 6, interviews. Did you do that? You said you were going to. Here it's in our records. Did you do it? And you're able to, share what you did, what you didn't do. And research shows, we know that accountability does in fact fuel the goal achievement for entrepreneurs, high conscious go-getters, salespeople, people like that.
Awesome.
Is it that time?
Ooh, yes, it is.
Time for the lightning round.
Bring it. Okay. Bring it.
Who are your heroes?
Well, that's easy. The first heroes that come to mind are my parents, who built their business out of nothing. The dining room of our very tiny childhood home. They were both teachers, and they said we can't effectively raise 3 children on 2 teacher salaries. And they had some friends who were in insurance. They got into insurance in the dining room on a little, 2 foot by 2 foot typing table, old metal typing table. That was their office where they got started. And about 10 years ago, they cashed out after selling that business. They sold a couple businesses after that. They still have some real estate holdings, and they live on a boat in Florida half the year, which was their lifelong dream when they built these companies and sold these companies, that they'd live on a boat in Florida half the year, and they do. And then they live on a lake in Illinois the other half of the year, and they have a really extraordinary lifestyle.
That's awesome. One of my dreams is to live on a boat after I retire.
We should talk.
In the tropics in Florida, yeah. Ooh. What random act of kindness could you perform right now?
A random act of kindness I could perform right now while we're sitting here? Like right here, like right now. Right now.
It's
right now.
You can define the question.
Yeah. Okay, well, right now, the random act of kindness that I want to bring to this conversation is to shout out to Tyler Small, who's over here actually recording, audio engineering, doing all kinds of things for your show, just to give him a shout out. Tyler's an awesome, up-and-coming, young entrepreneur. He's working hard to build his career and to build his family, and anyone in the area who needs his services should be reaching out to Tyler Small. Look him up on social media.
I love it. Erin, what are you passionate about and want to spend more time doing?
What I'm passionate about and want to spend more time doing is getting out in nature with my daughter. We go camping together, which is a throwback from my past. My parents, when they had that business in the little house with the little typing table, we had no money, and we camped every weekend in the summer on the same lake lot with the same families for 13 summers every single weekend. I let go of camping, of course, throughout my adult life. But when coronavirus hit, I was trying to stay a step ahead, and I thought, what the hell are we going to do this summer? We cannot be in this house 7 days a week together this summer. I'm going to get ahead of this before all the camping gear is sold out and the bikes are sold out. I'm going to buy all this stuff, and I'm going to retrofit my vehicle so I can haul all this stuff around. And we're going camping. And we spent every other weekend, because she's with her dad every other weekend, camping in Missouri state parks. And we brought that back again this year, and I'm passionate about it and want to keep doing it. Last weekend, she said, once we got there, I'm so glad you made me do this. This is fun. Even though she protested the whole way there.
Oh my gosh.
What makes you lose track of time?
Hard work makes me lose track of time. Yeah, it's that flow state that I can't think of the researcher's name because it's a very long, complicated German name. But he actually created
Mihai Chess.
It's long. It's
yes.
Right, exactly that one created the context or the distinction, the model or framework of flow, and it's that state where your work is sufficiently difficult and interesting. And if you set the conditions correctly, you can get into this flow state where you do this difficult work, but it doesn't feel difficult, and you lose all track of time. So I love to time block in a way where I can get into a flow state with projects, and I completely lose track of time.
Last question. What risk are you happy that you took?
Being an entrepreneur. I've been self-employed for 25 years. I graduated college with a business degree and moved home to work for my parents for 3 months to figure out what I was going to do with my life, worked in their insurance and real estate office, and saw these real estate agents. I thought, I could do that. And I was young enough and dumb enough to give that a shot, to have no stable income at age 22 and to put myself on a path of 100% commission. You know, as they say, you eat what you kill. And so that was a big risk. That didn't feel like a risk at the time, but it has set me on this path that I'm on, to, you know, have the companies that I've had through the years, to have the 2 companies I have today, to, you know, get my master's degree, then my PhD degree. And I think it all came from taking that original risk.
Excellent.
Well, Erin, how can people get in touch with you, with Black Dress Circle, with Fuel to Fire?
blackdresscircle.com and fueltofire.co.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. This was such a fascinating conversation.
Oh, thank you, Leanne. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you
Pleasure.
for having me.
Thank you for listening to Innovation City. If you like this episode, you can find more episodes at innovationcity.co or anywhere where you watch or listen to podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review, and we'll see you next week.
This is where it all begins, so say goodbye to all your fears, all your doubts. This is where they die.